Game balance, generally understood as the procedure of adjusting difficulty, win-loss conditions, power scaling, and so on to level a fairness amongst players in a video game. Sound familiar to you? Yeah, well, me neither. It looks like these guys just suck at their jobs. When it comes to the video game community, talking about game balance is a topic that always seems to leave a sour taste in everybody's mouths. This ability is too strong, that ability does too much damage, and every single character is overpowered except for the one that I play. Okay, well, this point is actually true though. Yo, can I get a buff, man? As someone who's played a lot, and I mean a lot, of different online multiplayer competitive games, I can safely say that there isn't a single video game out there that is known to actually have good game balancing. And even if you were to argue that there is one, chances are the other 99% of the game's community would certainly not be on your side. Although it may seem like the gaming community is just filled with a bunch of whiny crybabies, at the end of the day, they're still absolutely right. Let's face it, terrible game balancing exists in a multitude of different ways in almost every game we've ever played. There's just always going to be an uneven fairness of power, giving a slight edge or advantage to a specific side or player over others. Whether it's a specific gun that mows people down quicker, or a character that has no bad matchups, or a hero that just has all of the best abilities. Hell, even chess, a game well known for its complete fairness and true balance to test one's skill over the other, is said to be more white side favored since going first gives a huge advantage. So, true game balancing doesn't really exist, and even if you tried, it would be extremely difficult to pull off, let alone maintain. But what if you were to grab this not so shocking concept, embraced it to the fullest, and created a game where every single thing in it was considered overpowered?
Oh my god, man! Oh my god, man! What the fuck? What the fucking shit? What?
No. Valve 1500 range hook.
Dota 2 is a game well known for many different things. The harder version of League of Legends, a quick downward spiral to depression, and a retirement home for very angry Russians. But it's also known for one more specific thing. It's very unique and, let's just say, different approach to balancing a game. IceFrog, one of the founders and he's the head of the Dota 2 balance team, knew just how difficult it was to please the Dota community through balance patch notes. So he took it upon himself to create a different yet simple method when it came to balancing his own game, which was to basically buff absolutely everything. If the hero sucked, buff them. If they were broken, buff them. If there was a hero that was actually considered to be in a perfectly balanced state, fucking buff him anyways, who cares? Every single update consisted of unnecessary buffs to almost every hero in the entire game, because IceFrog believed that buffing weak heroes was a much easier solution to nerfing what was already too powerful, which would then later on result in all patches just seeming like an overall glorified power creep where, instead of heroes surpassing one another, in Dota, everybody wins. If everything is considered overpowered, then ultimately nothing is overpowered. This sounds stupid at first, because it is, but it also does somewhat make sense. Something being considered overpowered can only be measured relatively, meaning that as long as everybody was equally strong, this would result in good balance. But why exactly does IceFrog choose to keep applying buffs over nerfs, even when a nerf seems absolutely necessary? Well, because from a psychological standpoint, this is actually a very smart decision. You see, in psychology, there is a theory very prone to gamers known as loss aversion, which states that humans tend to feel losses twice as painful as gains feel great. Meaning that if you were to lose something valuable to you, gaining twice that amount would equate on the opposite side of the spectrum. If you're still struggling to understand whatever the fuck I'm trying to say here, in much simpler terms, one nerf to your character will hurt twice as bad as one buff of a similar scale. So we get it. Prioritizing buffs over nerfs is overall a good decision. But what happens if this keeps going in the long run? How is it that the game that consists of abilities that stun you for over 5 seconds, insane health regen that out-heals your damage, and the global teleport on a 20-second cooldown considered balanced? And not only that, has consistently stayed on top as one of the most popular and competitive esports games of all time. In order to really understand what truly makes Dota 2 the home of unbalanced atrocities, we first need to recognize what specifically makes a MOBA hero overpowered in the first place. Like, what exactly does a hero require in order to be listed as a so-called broken hero? To help us identify this, we should look further beyond, even outside of the Dota 2 realm, just for a bit. Allow me to take you on a trip to a place not many people are very fond of, as most people would honestly describe it as the closest thing we have to hell on earth. League of Legends. Now, League may very well be the perfect representation of a truly unbalanced game, as every single new champion release comes with an extremely overloaded kit filled with ability descriptions that look like pages from a Harry Potter novel. Aurora's damaging basic attacks and abilities apply a stack of Spirit Abjuration to enemies. On the third stack against a target, refreshing them all and deals bonus magic damage. Aurora fires a bolt of energy plus 5% target direction inside a portal in this place with immunity for
Teemo shoots a dart, he blinds you. Yeah, that's it.
It's become pretty abundantly clear to tell if the character you're currently looking at has released in the past year or in the past decade just by looking at their abilities alone. Because Riot has a tendency of constantly trying to one-up themselves, always adding more and more things on top of their already overwhelming champion designs, resulting in, you guessed it, bad balancing. But to be completely honest here, Valve also does this exact same thing as well. Grab any legacy hero from the original cast of Warcraft 3 and compare it to some of the newer additions we see nowadays like Pangolier, Marcy, or Kez, and you can clearly see a big shift in their designs. On one hand, a simple and straightforward playstyle, and on the other, a playstyle that honestly just has so much going on, it's kind of all over the place. Regardless, this ultimately makes sense, as both developers are just trying to create something fresh and unique, because what's the point of adding a new character that just does the same thing as everybody else? But the real question is, if both Riot and Valve share the same habit of power creeping new character releases, why is League specifically known to be way worse? Well, for starters, Dota 2's whole cast of heroes are heavily defined by a rock, paper, scissors style of gameplay design, meaning that no matter how ridiculously overpowered a new hero may seem, it will always be designed to have a counter. For a lot of people out there who have never played a single game of Dota 2 before, reading Tinker's abilities can sound unbelievably busted, as he's able to infinitely teleport around the map as he well pleases and refreshes all of his abilities and items every second. I mean, come on, if I didn't know any better, this hero honestly just sounds like he's straight up hacking the entire game, playing as a complete god. However, as we all know, this is far from the truth, since Tinker is extremely weak to heroes that are able to easily find him. He'll straight up crumble against an enemy Zeus who can lock him down with an ult plus Nimbus Cloud, and to a late game Spectre, well, he's basically just a walking free kill. And this is exactly what Valve is trying to aim for, a very strong cast of characters that, no matter how strong they may seem, will always have an answer back to. The same thing, unfortunately, cannot be said about League and their champions, since every single patch seems to be a glorified find the next broken champion event for free LP. Very often are times where a champion will be so incredibly strong, the counter picks to that said champion don't have any effectiveness at all. And this is the exact same reason why we see double the amount of hero variety in Dota 2's tournaments over League's tournaments. The recent International featured almost 100 different heroes being picked, whereas Worlds only consisted of 65, despite having way more characters than Dota. So in conclusion, drafting is an essential key factor when it comes to keeping Dota fair and balanced. But what if you were the Tinker player who got counterpicked by Zeus? I mean, how could you look at this and still argue that this is more balanced when I can't even do— oh, well, would you look at that? I can actually play the game now. Whoa, look at that! Which leads us to my next point. Items. Alongside drafting, items also play a huge part of Dota 2's balance and are oftentimes the deciding factors to winning or losing the entire game. The amount of times I've seen a last-second BKB press or a random Skullbasher proc become the crucial point of a game's outcome is uncountable. It's without a doubt that items are just so incredibly crucial in Dota, more so than other games, since the power spike you gain from acquiring them is so massive. Is the enemy hero annoying you with stuns? BKB. Is the enemy hero annoying you with silences? Eul Scepter. Is the enemy hero difficult to catch? Skullbasher. Is the enemy hero unkillable due to their passive ability? Silver Edge. Is the enemy hero a Viper and you're currently playing as TA? Well, I mean, shit, good luck, you're gonna need it. Every, and I mean every single Dota 2 game, no matter how difficult, can be solved with acquiring a specific item. In fact, a lot of the times, you're going to be avoiding a lot of the action in desperate need to farm gold for those much required items, since a lot of the heroes in the Dota 2 cast aren't even playable until you reach a certain item timing. And on top of that, not only does the speed of your itemization matter, but also the order of which you get your items as well. Very rarely will you be able to build the exact same build path for your hero every single game, because as I've stated before, the rock paper scissors style gameplay will have you second guessing yourself, questioning whether or not you should greed for more damage instead of building a much safer route. But I mean, let's face it, the golden Dota rule that is globally known is that BKB is for fucking pussies. Am I right, boys? Woo! Look at my damage! Holy shit, I'm popping! And I just dropped my rapier. Oh well, GG's, go next.